For anybody who's curious about why the lighting has gone back to being what it was before, it's just my stepdaughter's gone for the week, so I can use the regular lighting. And, you know, I don't intend on taking down the other lights. I didn't just get them for Christmas. I got them because it's kind of nice to have that softer lighting for on nights when this is bothering me, or for instance, and I mentioned this before, for when it might wake her up when I'm turning this light on here because it's bright and her room's right there. So, all right, let's get things started with Toronto. This was a heck of a performance by the Toronto Maple Leafs. This was a really impressive performance by Toronto, and it started what would be a pretty trying night for me. I saw those games that started at 6, and I thought, oh, good. All the hockey will be done early. And then it hit me when all the games started at 6. Holy crap, all of this hockey's going on at the same time. There's no way I could follow all of it. So I followed as much as I could. And then we were having problems with our cable. So I went through TELUS, and I'm going to get that all straightened out. Pay a few bucks extra. But there's a couple of things that have been bothering me and driving me nuts with my cable and just with my internet in general. And I think a lot of it has to do with the size of the house we've got. So anyways, Toronto and Minnesota. Just the signal I don't think always reaches down to where I am, down to the nether regions of the hockey guys' room. Yeah, you weren't expecting that. So Toronto, they're 6-2 in their last 8 on New Year's Eve, and the Wild were 6-9 coming into today, and New Year's Eve all time. So the game favored Toronto before the puck dropped because they're pretty good on New Year's Eve, which is a weird stat, right? Early pressure by the Leafs. The Wild got their first shot at 5 minutes and 29 seconds. So Toronto was holding them off. And they did a pretty good job of that tonight overall. Kerfoot would score from Tavares and Dermott at 5:55. The Wild end up getting a power play. They wouldn't score on it. The Leafs got a power play of their own, and then the Wild got a power play later on. So it was a back and forth type of game that way. But in the last minute, those goals are key. Nylander scores from Matthews and Barrie at 19:29. And I don't know, the Leafs just looked pretty good. It was 2-0 for them after one. Second period, the puck control early went to the Leafs. They get a power play, and they'd score on it. Matthews from Nylander and Marner at 8:34 on the power play. And all I kept thinking when I was watching this was, when I did the video on guys who would have a bounce back year, everybody's like, why aren't you talking about Nylander? And my answer was, well, we know he's going to have a bounce back year, so I didn't need to mention him in the video. So I kind of feel like this proves that I didn't need to talk about the like we knew this is Nylander. And his contract looks pretty good right now. And I understand people are going to say, oh, no, it doesn't, because they've got all these other problems. But yeah, but it's not his problem. And that's going to start a whole fire. Matthews with another one. He's scoring at a pretty good clip right now. I think that's 11 goals in 11 games for Matthews. The Wild got their third power play, and they would score on theirs. It is Suter from Fiala and Koivu at 11:46. So that's a power play marker for Minnesota, and that's as close as they'd get. But they did push for another. Dubnyk then looked hurt, but he stayed in it. Like it looked like he'd hurt his knee, but he'd stay in the rest of the game. He was okay. Soucy hurt his leg. He ended up on the bench. There was a scrum with 3.7 seconds left after Justin Hall took a shot after the whistle went. Yeah, you don't do that. So Minnesota players were letting him know, hey, don't do that. So going into the third, it was a pretty decent lead for Toronto. But again, with Toronto, you can sometimes have some concern about their ability to protect leads. Not tonight. The shots were at a premium in that third period on both sides. Good shutdown third for the Leafs. Good shot blocking both ways. And it was definitely keeping the amount of really good opportunities down to a very bare minimum. They pull the goalie with 2 minutes left. What that allows is Tavares to hit the empty net at 19:35. So that's your empty netter. Tavares had a pretty good game, and yet your 3 stars are Matthews, Anderson, and Suter. So 4-1 victory for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anderson saves 26 out of 27 in the victory. Dubnyk saves 25 out of 28 in the loss. Power plays, both teams went 1 for 3 on the power play. Shots were 8-7 Toronto in the first, 15-14 Toronto in the second, and both teams had 6 shots in the third. Like I said, they just shut it down in the third. They're like, all right, this is it. And that's what you need to do. This is one of those games that when I look at it, I say, you know what? Tonight Toronto played playoff hockey. Final shots 29-27 in favor of the Leafs, and they do get the victory. They solidify their spot in second in the division. So, moving along. Tampa, oh my God, what happened? What happened, Buffalo? Like, here I was going, all right, well, I wore a Buffalo jersey for the preview, so, hey, this looks pretty good. And then, what happened? So, early, Reinhart gets a chance. The Sabres get a power play. The shots through 8 minutes were 5-2 Buffalo. And this team looked confident. They looked competent in their own end. Olmark looked really good when he was tested. The Bolts got a power play, but this was a really solid period for the Sabres. Sherry would score from Lazar at 19:03. It was a nice goal. Nice to see Connor Sherry on the board. Curtis Lazar looks like he's fitting in pretty well with Buffalo since the call-up. There was a goal then off, and actually that goal was off the Bolts turnover. Reinhart then almost added another in the last minute. So it's 1-0 for Buffalo after one. They outshot the Tampa Bay Lightning pretty easily. And you're thinking, all right, so Buffalo should be able to win this one. And in the second, nothing happened early on to make you think it wouldn't happen. First, it's Johansson from Sherry and Scandella at 2:12. And that was the first shot of the second period for Buffalo. So, again, it's 2-0. The Bolts got a power play, which turned into a 5-on-3, and they weren't finding the net. They certainly didn't find the net on that 5-on-3, but before it was all said and done, Palat scores from Johnson and Sergachev at 7 minutes, and that made it 2-1. But a minute and 12 seconds later, Jimmy Vesey scores from Johansson and Sherry. Sherry with 3 points, Johansson with a couple of points, and at 8:12 of the second period, it's 3-1 for Buffalo. So, McCabe and Sergachev have a fight, because that's what you do. McCabe tracked Sergachev down. Sergachev threw a hit. I believe it was a hit on Eichel that they didn't like. The Bolts got another power play. During the Bolts power play, Eichel scores shorthanded at 9:56. A shorthanded goal. And it's 4-1 for Buffalo halfway through the game. It's all Buffalo. It's done. There was a lot of games tonight that looked like, okay, that's done. They're not done. So the Sabres got a power play, and I thought that could end it. I thought they score again. They score on the power play. That'll end it. That's going to be it for Tampa. They didn't. The Bolts got another power play, and they would score on theirs. Braden Point from Killorn and Kucherov at 13:57 on that power play, and you're thinking, all right, well, it's 4-2, so it should be okay because they should be able to hold on to a 2-goal. They're at home. They should be able to. No. Johnson scores from Verhaeghe and McDonough at 16:55. So it's 4-3 after 2. But again, you're looking at this and thinking, all right, well, Buffalo's got to tamp it down in the third period. No. At 6 minutes and 20 seconds of that third period, Shattenkirk scores from Johnson and Cirelli. Less than 2 minutes later, Killorn scores from Maroon and Paquette. So at 8:08, it's a quiet building in Buffalo. And that crowd turned on that game fast. This was a 4-1 lead, and suddenly it was 5-4 for Tampa. The Sabres get a power play. They don't score on the power play, which was the story tonight as well. Goalie pull with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. Well, with 3 seconds left, Cirelli hits that empty net from Killorn and Stamkos. So Alex Killorn continues this incredible run he's been on for most of this season. So in 1957, that makes it 6-4. Tampa Bay comes back from 4-1 down. They score 5 in a row. They're not the only team that scored 5 in a row tonight. Vasilevsky, 24 saves on 28 shots. Olmark saves 21 out of 26. Your 3 stars are Killorn, Sherry, and Johnson. Power plays, 2 for 5 for Tampa, 0 for 4 for the Buffalo Sabres. Your shots, 10-3 Buffalo in the first. Second period, 15-9 for Tampa. Both teams had 9 shots in the third. Final shots, 28-27 in favor of Buffalo. This is one of those bewildering games. This is one of those games that cost you the playoffs. This is one of those games that you look back at in April and you say, man, that New Year's Eve game just killed us. And for Buffalo, they really couldn't do this. Because we see Toronto get 2 points, they get nothing. And this is how things kind of snowball from here. Next up, Montreal. Montreal went in against Carolina tonight. And you know what? They gave it the good old college try. But Carolina, they just seemed to want it more when it mattered. And Charlie Lindgren has another really good game. I like Lindgren. I'm not sure why he ends up getting buried in the American League. I think he's a pretty good goaltender at the National Hockey League level. Sort of the same as like Aiden Hill in Arizona, that he seems to be pretty good and then he doesn't stick around. The early chances were for the Canes, and they would score on one. It's a power play goal for Aho from Haula and Teravainen at 155, and Lindgren had no chance on that. That was just Sebastian Aho going, oh, you won't put me in the All-Star game? Look at this. Don't put this in the All-Star game then. The funny thing is, I don't think players care whether or not they're going. There's Dylan Larkin in Detroit telling fans not to vote him in as the last pick for the division, saying I'd rather have the days off. And I wonder how many of these guys feel that way. Then this goal was reviewed for a high stick, but it's a good goal by Aho. So that one counted, and then Domi would score at 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Yes, Max Domi continues his goal-scoring streak. That's 6, but that's all the offense Montreal managed tonight. Fogle nearly scored on Lindgren because Lindgren made an error behind his own net. These things happen. And it's 1-1 after 1. Second period, Haula scores from Pesce and Teravainen at 7:34. Net just took a shot that got him right in the... It looked like it hit him right in the side of the jaw. I think I got the wrong side, but you know what I mean. And he exited the game. So all you're thinking is, okay, how many teeth are going to be gone? And is this going to be dental surgery? Or is this just a, look, we'll just keep your teeth here, go out and play the game, and we'll fix you after? Whatever happened in the third period, he did re-enter the game. Mrazek was tested early, but this is right about where you find out Brendan Gallagher is not on the Montreal bench. So you can look at Montreal's results tonight and say that's concerning, but Brendan Gallagher, if he's going to miss any time, that is far more concerning than any result out of tonight's game. The Canes get a power play. Lindgren robbed Aho. So Sebastian Aho is going for another one. There was a goal that was challenged for goalie interference by Montreal. I believe that was a Paling goal, and it was successfully challenged as interference, which was interesting because the announcers, and this was TSN I was watching, were pretty darn sure that the Montreal player was pushed into the goalie by the Carolina defender and felt that goal should have counted, and when it didn't, yeah. So that successful challenge, it hurt Montreal because they'd worked really hard for that goal. Lindgren always impresses me when I see him in action. It's just the way it works. I'm really surprised nobody's called Montreal and said, hey, we need a better backup than what we have. Can we have Lindgren? Because I think Montreal would listen to that question. But anyways, the Habs got close at around 16 and a half minutes. They then got a power play. They would pull the goaltender with 1 minute and 40 seconds left. But at the end of the power play, Dzingel, who was in the box, comes out. He ends up getting the empty netter from Walmart at 19:06. So 3-1's your final for Carolina. Lindgren, 33 saves on 35 shots. He didn't get a star tonight. I'll give him an honorary star for Charlie Lindgren. Mrazek saves 29 out of 30. He was the third star. Your first and second stars are Haula and Teravainen. While Teravainen doesn't get goals, he does get a lot of assists, which takes your mind right off the fact he doesn't get goals. Power plays 0 for 3 for Montreal, 1 for 2 for Carolina. Your shots 14-6 Carolina in the first, 13-8 Montreal in the second, 14-11 for Carolina in the third. Final shots 36-30 in favor of the home team, and they get the much needed victory. So Carolina, they're in pretty good shape right now because the Islanders had won tonight, so they needed to keep pace with the Islanders and to separate themselves a little bit more from the Philadelphia Flyers, who look like they want to back out of the playoffs altogether. All right, but moving along, Florida. This is the team that Elvis Merzlikins gets his first NHL victory against. So that's your trivia answer. Elvis beat the Panthers. And this was an early... You could tell Columbus was playing for something tonight. So Werenski scores from Wenberg at 4:54. And when I say playing for something, this isn't just like a regular season game. You could tell this was a team that kind of had a chip on their shoulder throughout this game. Bobrovsky got a nice welcome back from the fans. I thought the fans were very polite. There was no booing and screaming at him that I heard. The Panthers got a power play. Good start, though, by Merzlikins. Really good start. And this is game number 400 for Nathan Gerbe. I never thought Nathan Gerbe'd get to 400 games. I'm half tempted to do a video for him because this kid is 5'4", and he's played 400 games in the NHL. That makes him my hero, my ultimate hero. The idea that there's an NHLer that I could stand here, look him right in the eye and go, how's it going? How's that game tonight? He'd look back at me and go, yeah, it was a pretty good game. Hey, you play in the NHL. That's weird. All right, so congratulations to Nathan Gerbe, and he's been a good luck charm for Columbus, so we'll see if they can keep him around. Texier was not on the bench in that first period at points. I didn't see whether or not he came back into the game, though. So, but it's Columbus, so everybody gets hurt in Columbus. Second period, Sevier scores from Stralman and Pesek at 3:39. Ties the game up. Power play for Columbus. Panthers get their turn on a power play. Columbus gets their turn on a power play. It's just back and forth, right? This is happening a lot right now, and it seems to always be in the second period. Boone Jenner would finally get one on the power play from Nyquist and Wenberg at 15:34. It's 2-1 Columbus after 2. And Florida, who put on a lot of pressure in that second period, Merzlikins stood tall. Third period, and the question was, can Merzlikins get a win? Can he get his first NHL win tonight? The answer is yes. Of course, if you're looking at the score at the top of the board, you already know the answer is yes. Columbus had a goal that was challenged for interference. Nope. Werenski gets that from Savard and Jenner at 4:13. Werenski adds another from Nyquist and Foligno at 8:04. So Zach Werenski with the unlikely hat trick for Columbus. Unless one of these goals got changed, and I'm assuming they didn't. Hat trick for Werenski. Who knew? And your final score is 4-1. So Florida made their best effort in that third period, just could not solve Elvis. Bobrovsky, 24 saves on 28 shots in the loss. Merzlikins, 36 saves on 37 shots. Yeah, he wanted it. 3 stars are Werenski, Merzlikins, and Jenner. Power plays 0 for 2 for Florida, 1 for 3 for Columbus. Shots were 14-13 in favor of Florida in the first, 15-8 Florida in the second, and 8-7 Florida in the third. They outshot them in every period. Final shots 37-28. What a great performance that was put on by Columbus, and most importantly by Elvis. So maybe losing Korpisalo won't be the death knell that everybody expects it to be, and this is why when I do my power rankings, I don't care who's hurt. Doesn't matter to me. But anyways, I now need to change boards. Okay, so remember in the preview I talked about Detroit and San Jose and how I'm pretty sure both teams would lose or this game would just go on forever. This was not a great game. It really honestly wasn't. And Detroit finally reaches double digits in wins, which is good because it was starting to look like that might not happen. They end a 6-game losing streak. And my God, San Jose. They finally, they won a laugher over Philadelphia, and they followed up with this. So first period was a slow start. The shots were 2-0 for Detroit at 5.5 minutes. The Sharks nearly scored at 12.5. The shots were 6-3 for San Jose at 15 minutes, so they did get the momentum. But Bernier was having another really good game. Bernier's been doing this year, where he'll put together a pretty decent start for Detroit. The late Wings power play went nowhere because, of course, it did. Second period, Bertuzzi would score from Bowie and Fabry at 3:15. I was pretty sure that was going to be the only goal in the game. Bertuzzi was just named to the All-Star team, of course. He will represent the Detroit Red Wings. We can have the debate about whether or not the Detroit Red Wings should have somebody in the All-Star game when from the same division. Marchand doesn't go, but we'll have that debate over the next couple of days, I would think, on the channel. I have more time tomorrow to do a video on that. Sharks got a power play around halfway through the period, but it's 1-0 after 2. And I thought, yeah, this is slow. Third period, and scoring issues for the Sharks continue. We didn't think they were going to be this anemic, did we? They are, though. Abdelkader and Goudreau had a fight. The Sharks tried pushing with 6.5 minutes left. There was more physical play, which led to a Wings power play. Whoops. So all that power play does is take 2 minutes off the clock. We know they're not going to score on it. It's just that's 2 more minutes off the clock. The Sharks were getting shots, no goals in that third period. The goaltender gets pulled with 1.5 minutes left. Hurdle just missed a fantastic chance. The Sharks take a timeout with 1 minute and 11 seconds left, but with the goalie pulled, Hronek hits the empty net from Glendening at 19:11. Hronek's really good at hitting the empty net from right near his own net. This one didn't hit right down the middle, but it was still a pretty nice empty netter. They pulled the goalie again. Doesn't matter. Your final score is 2-0. The bad news, too, for San Jose is Martin Jones saved 21 out of 22 in the loss. Yep. And Bernier saved all 34 for his 18th career shutout. Yeah. Bernier, Bertuzzi, and Jones are your 3 stars in this one, so Martin Jones gets the 3rd star in a loss. Power plays 0 for 3 for San Jose, 0 for 2 for Detroit. Shots were 10-9 Detroit in the first, 11-9 San Jose in the second, 14-4 San Jose in the third. Final shots 34-22 or to 23 in favor of the San Jose Sharks. And San Jose finds a way to lose in Detroit. Didn't they lose to Detroit once already this year? Didn't they lose at home against Detroit? Oh, San Jose. It just keeps getting worse for you guys, doesn't it? Now, next up, Winnipeg and Colorado. You like goals? Well, goals are coming. They're coming by the bushel full. You'll notice I use different numbers for tonight. These are helmet stickers from 1985-86 Tops. So they were stickers in amongst Tops hockey card packs. And I converted them into magnets because what you do. I thought it was a nice change from the other numbers I have. I'll alternate between the two. And there's more of the big numbers in this, so I don't have to worry about making more of the big numbers in the other. Anyways, some big numbers in this game. The Jets nearly scored in the first minute. There were fast breaks both ways, which favors Winnipeg, to be honest. It would certainly seem to when you look at the score at the end of the night. Wheeler scores from Ehlers and Roslovic at 6:25. This is Wheeler's 900th career game, so nice to see him on the board. But McKinnon would score from Girard and Johnson at 9:43. This period was dominated by the Colorado Avalanche, and it's borderline criminal that it was 1-1 after one. But hey, the Jets, no apologies from them. Second period, the fans were looking for penalties that weren't coming. They were looking for power plays they weren't getting early in that second, and yet the Avs still had the heavy shot advantage until Connor scores at 8:27 to make it 2-1 for the Jets. The Avs got a power play. They wouldn't score on that, but then they get another. And if you just keep giving a team power play after power play, they will score. Especially when they got Nathan McKinnon, who gets his second of the game from Girard and Kadri at 13:47. Scheifele then scored from Pionk for the Winnipeg Jets at 14:53. Because, every time it got tied, Winnipeg said, no, you don't. So after two periods, it was 3-2 in favor of the Jets. The Avalanche then got a 4-minute power play in the third period. So on the double minor to Connor, there was a crossbar for Makar, and then Landeskog would score as that second 2 minutes of the 4 minutes started from Jost at 7:15. So that meant that the power play was over. If he'd scored it like 15 seconds sooner, power play would have continued. The Jets got a power play shortly after that one. Connor would score, so Connor makes up for the 4-minute penalty by getting a goal of his own from Pionk at 10:45. That's Pionk's second assist in the game, and that power play marker is on the only power play that the Jets had in the game, so that's a nice efficient power play right there. Connor would then score again from Laine and Scheifele at 16:31. That's a hat trick for Kyle Connor. There were some hat tricks tonight. They pull the goalie with 3.5 minutes left, approximately. Wheeler would end up scoring into that empty net from Roslovic and Ehlers at 17:39. Roslovic totally could have potted that in the net himself, and he passed it over to Wheeler instead, likely because this is his 900th game, so get him another goal. Kadri would answer from Rantanen and Johnson in 1916, so that made it interesting. They pulled the goalie again, but that just leads to Ehlers getting a goal from Roslovic in 1948, which is when I yelled at the TV that they can knock it off now. And I wanted them to knock it off because I was out of room on the board. I'm like, all right, if they keep scoring goals like this, if each team scores another goal, I'm going to be kind of ticked off. But they did stop there. Your final score 7-4 for Winnipeg. So yes, I used up all the Winnipeg magnets I had for goals tonight. Hellebuck saves 39 out of 43. He actually played very well. Grubauer saved 19 out of 24. He played less well. Your 3 stars are Connor, McKinnon, and Hellebuck. And is there a problem with Grubauer, or is this a defensive issue? So there are some question marks when it comes to Colorado right now. And there may have been a market correction on the board tonight for Colorado based on their recent record. Power plays, Winnipeg 1 for 1, Colorado 2 for 9. Shots were 17-8 for Colorado in the first, 15-12 Colorado in the second, 11-6 Colorado in the third. They outshot them 43-26. They just couldn't get the goals when they needed them. And that is different than the Colorado Avalanche were early in the season. So we'll see if this continues to be a trend, but they've been losing with regularity lately, so we'll see if they can turn that around. Next up, speaking of turning things around, Alberta tonight. There were some interesting games in Alberta. Twilight Zone type games here. The Chicago Blackhawks went into Calgary tonight, and they go above the NHL 500. They have 18 wins to 17 regulation losses. But boy, is it a weird way to get there. First period, Olli Mata with a goal from Kane and Sakura at 4:14. I like seeing Dylan Sakura's name up on the board because I think he's a good young player, and I'd like to see him crack the lineup regularly for them. DeBrincat scores on the power play from Strome and Kane at 5:35, so it's 2-0. Then Kane would score before the end of the first from Sakura and Carpenter at 12:44. So the Calgary Flames at home in a game they need to win, they're down 3-0 after one. Second period, Mangiapane had a break that was denied. And then shortly after that, Strome scores from DeBrincat and Murphy at 9:41. So DeBrincat with a goal and an assist to that point in the game. Kane had a goal and 2 assists to that point in the game. And it's 4-0 for Chicago, where Calgary's kind of quiet. However, 6 seconds left in the second period. Bennett scores from Ryan and Lucic at 19:54. So it's one of those last-minute goals, and you think, all right, maybe that'll change the momentum a little bit, but they're down by 3 entering the third. So odds are, third period, early Hawks chance, it almost fooled Riddick. Very, very close. The Flames, I felt, were in deep trouble at this stage because it looked like the Hawks could add a fifth. Scoring issues for the Flames that were a problem early in the year seem to be back. And then the Hawks get a power play. During that power play, Frolik, of all people, scores shorthanded at 15:30. So he's the catalyst for this comeback. Now it's only 4-2. Monahan would score from Tkachuk and Goudreau at 16:48, which brought the fans back into it and made you think, hey. And meanwhile, there was a game going on in Edmonton that was crazy for a whole other reason. And I'm like, okay, these games were supposed to be the late games I didn't have to worry about documenting every little thing that happens because they're lopsided. And no. So that goalie pull happens, and there were some nerves, you would think, if you're Chicago. They were relieved when Kane hits the net, the empty net from Mata at 19:59. It was cleared basically with 8 seconds, or I think it was 8 seconds left when they cleared it. And yeah, Kane hits the net with like 0.4 seconds left on the clock, so it did count. 5-3 is the final in favor of Chicago, so they have to be grateful they hung on. Leonard saved 41 out of 44 in the victory. Riddick saved 28 out of 32, your 3 stars. Kane, Bennett, and Strome. So Dylan Strome did pretty well tonight, and Ryan Strome wasn't very bad either. So this was a weird night that both Stromes are visitors. Both games involved huge comebacks. Power plays 1 for 4 for Chicago, 0 for 1 for Calgary, so they didn't draw enough penalties. 14-10 were the shots for Chicago in the first, 16-10 for Calgary in the second, 18-9 for the Flames in the third. Final shots 44-33 for the Flames. They did push back, they just couldn't quite tie it. And Leonard, I thought, was a huge difference maker as well. They needed more saves than what they were getting in the Calgary net. So, we'll see. Riddick has not been as good as Talbot over the last few weeks, and this is just another one of those games where statistically you're going to look at it and say, that first period where they needed those big saves, they really weren't getting them. And Patrick Kane just continues to rack up some points. That's all he does in his career is just rack up a whole bunch of points. Now, craziness. Absolute bonkers crazy. This is one of those ones where 3 years ago, if I was reviewing this game, there would have been swear words galore. I don't know what happens here. I don't understand this. First period, Neal. Now, because I talked in the preview about how he had 2 goals and 1 assist in his last 10 games, he must have watched the preview and gone, holy crap, I'm not scoring, because tonight he made up for it, and then some. He scores from Kassian and Klefbom at 11 seconds. Then at 8:46 on the power play, he scores again from Klefbom and Nugent Hopkins. So Klefbom with a couple helpers early. Bear would score from Kara at 11:13. That's Jujhar Kara's first assist of the year. And it's 3-0 after 1. So both of these games were 3-0 after 1. Both of these games I said, all right, this is done. And I was already starting to make adjustments to the power rankings based on how the late games were starting out. I was thinking I might have to move them back. Now, in the second period, I had no doubt I wasn't going to need to put him back. There was an extended 4-on-4 near the 5-minute mark. The Oilers were holding the shots against down to this point in the game. Holding them down. The Oilers get a power play and they score on it. Leon Draisaitl from Nugent Hopkins and Neal at 13-11. Then Neal with his 4th point of the game and his 3rd goal of the game on the power play from McDavid and Klefbom at 13-23. And they're 3 for 5 on the power play. Everything you wanted as an Oilers fan to start working, started working. They're up 5-0, and then just for fun, Archibald scores from Sheahan at 15:04. Hey, look, it's 6-0, and then the Oilers get another power play. They get another power play. They're already 3 for 5. This is power play number 6. Yep, the game's over. Shortly after that power play ended, Kreider scored from Panarin and Shea at 19:35. And what did the announcers say, and what was I thinking as well? Well, there goes the shutout for Koskinen. That might be the only thing we're caring about going into the third period. It is 6-1 after 2. Third period. Strome scores from Fox and Panarin at 4:38. It's 5 minutes into the second period or third period. It's 6-2. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to see here. Strome scores again from Panarin and Stahl at 11:29. Although the app's still saying it was Mark Stahl. I don't understand how it was Strome. But anyway, Strome from Panarin and Stahl at 11:29. All right, but it's 6-3. It's 6-3. Nothing else is going to happen. Nothing. What's that? Panarin, less than a minute later, scores to make it 6-4. And then, worst case scenario, Oscar Klefbom got hurt blocking a shot and left the game. And then, Zibanejad scores from Fox and D'Angelo at 16:15. And it's at this point that Tippett calls a timeout, and I write on the board, no kidding. It was 6-0. How do you blow a 6-goal lead? I don't know, but apparently the Oilers went, hold my beer. We'll show you how it's done. Now, after that timeout, they would get an empty netter. Yamamoto scores from Jujhar Khaira at 18:53. I don't know what happens here. Is it simply a case of Georgiev comes out when it's 6-0, they put in Lundqvist? No, because they only generated 6 shots after the other goalie went in. Lundqvist really didn't have to do a whole lot for this game to get interesting. Far, far, far more interesting than it should have been. When it was 6-0, that's when you tamp it down, and they didn't. And the Rangers have an explosive young offense. You cannot let them think they have a chance. And that's exactly what the Oilers did. So you're left in this awkward position, and this is where when I'm doing power rankings, I look and I go, okay, it's 7-5, the Oilers win. But the Rangers came back from 6-0 down and almost tied it. And the Oilers had a 6-goal lead and almost blew it. But they didn't, so they won. Georgiev saved 18 out of 24. He then smashed some poor stick that was probably one day away from retirement. Was replaced by Lundqvist. Lundqvist saved the only 6 shots he faced after he went in. Koskinen saves 27 out of 32. He lost the shutout in the second, and then everybody lost everything in the third. Neal, Nugent Hopkins, and Panarin are your 3 stars. Power plays, the Rangers had 1. They didn't score on it. The Oilers had 7 and scored 3 times. If not for their power play, they would have lost this game. Shots were 11-9 for the Oilers in the first, 14-12 Oilers in the second, 11-6 Rangers in the third. Final shots actually favored the Rangers 32-31. I don't know. If you're a Rangers fan, or if you're an Oilers fan, do you look at this game and go, well, we won. That's fine. Take them however you can get them. We got back into a playoff spot. We won a game. Cool. Or do you look at this and go, holy crap, we can't play like this again because if we do, we're dead. Yeah, and if you're a Rangers fan, do you look at that and go, well, yeah, we lost, but look what happened. And now they're going in against Calgary. Who knows what's going to happen there? That game, I believe, is on Thursday. And yeah, this is the most bewildering game probably of the season. I'm going to go with that, although Florida and Boston was up there too. Oh, we're ahead 4-0. We're good. Oh, crap, we lost 5-4. What happened? Boston happened. And in this game, Edmonton almost happened. All right, that being said, I need to change boards. All right, and now we're on to the board with the last 2 games of the night. And St. Louis, they played a pretty good game, but Arizona kind of beat them at their own game. And saying that, Antti Raanta reminded us tonight that he's a pretty good starting goalie all by himself. So whether Darcy Kemper's able to actually recover in time to go to the All-Star game, or Raanta ends up being named as his replacement if he can't, I don't think you lose a whole lot there. Now, first period, Garland scores on the power play from Goligoski and Chychrun at 8:05. Keep in mind, the first period of these games, I've got 9 games on at the same time, and I'm going to pay more attention to the games that are in the third period than the games that are in the first. Bozak would score to tie it from Steen and Thomas at 14:53. Pretty good road period for St. Louis. They come out of the period with a tie game. And for Arizona, you wonder, okay, so are they going to have trouble scoring? Second period, there was a Coyotes power play that overlapped. The Blues killed the rest of that to start the period. The Blues got an early power play, and then they got a 5-on-3 that lasted for over a minute. So that's your key turning point here, is that Arizona killed that off, and they did it pretty well. After killing it, though, the Blues get another one. So Antti Raanta is the only reason this one's tied after 2. And this is why the shots are so heavily in favor of St. Louis. They're always on the power play. That will tend to skew things in the favor of the team that has all those power plays. Third period, Allen denied Dvorak. And I thought Jake Allen played a pretty good game. He doesn't get into the 3 stars, but he had a pretty good game himself. However, Kessel would score from Krause and Chychrun at 7:20. Phil Kessel, it seems important that Kessel start getting some goals and some points. I think it's good for his confidence. The Blues tried to answer. There was a 2-on-1 then for the Coyotes where Kessel shot wide. The Coyotes then got pinned down to the point where they took a penalty. So they were pinned in their own zone a lot by St. Louis in that third to the point where they were taking a penalty. Raanta stopped Kyrou, and he actually did it twice. Only put it up there once, but he did it twice. So Jordan Kyrou with a pretty good game. There were game-saving stops by Raanta. Just fantastic. There was a late Coyotes power play, and the Coyotes did a masterful job. They actually skated around the ice for about 35 seconds with the puck during the delayed penalty to make sure that it was as close to the end of the game when that penalty would be over as possible. So St. Louis pulls the goalie so it can be 5-on-5, and they actually did a pretty good job 5-on-5 until Schmaltz gets that empty netter from Soderberg and Stepan at 19:08, and it might have been one of the funniest empty net goals I've seen. It was kind of sad how he tripped and stumbled, and eventually he gets it in the empty net. But yeah, it was some physical comedy to get it there. But Schmaltz gets it there, and so he gets, I think that's his 7th of the year or something like that. I know he doesn't have a ton of goals, but he is their leading scorer, and that nailed it down. 3-1 victory for Arizona. Pretty impressive victory. They needed this. Allen saves 24 out of 26 in the loss. Raanta saves 37 out of 38. He stole this game. Garland, Raanta, and Kessel are your 3 stars. Power plays 0 for 4 for St. Louis, 2 for 4 for Arizona, so their power play basically won them the game. This empty netter is a power play goal by Schmaltz. So technically it's a power play goal even though it was 5-on-5 because they were shorthanded at the time, were the Blues. Shots were 11 apiece in the first, 18-8 for St. Louis in the second, 9-8 St. Louis in the third. Final shots 38-37 in favor of the Blues, but they come out of this game with the loss because Antti Raanta stole it. He stole it. All right, and last game of the night was Philadelphia in against the LA Kings, and Philadelphia makes it look respectable, but my God, does Philly not want to play in California anymore. These guys were looking pretty darn good and like a playoff team and everything's going to be good. They come out of California looking like they don't belong in the playoffs. If you're a Columbus fan, you have to be really excited about how Philadelphia is playing right now. With this result for Philadelphia and the result Columbus got tonight, Columbus is 5 points back. It's a good time right now if you're a Columbus fan because honestly, and I understand Korpisalo being out, that's horrible, it's terrible news, but Philadelphia is just a disaster. And it is an endless disaster in this game. LA had a perfect power play. That's how bad a game this was for Philadelphia because LA never has a perfect power play. Clifford scores from Luff and Amadio at 5:31. Iafallo scores from Kopitar and Kempney at 6:57. Toffoli scores from Kopitar and Doughty at 8:45. Those last 2 goals, both power play markers, make it 3-0 for the Kings. The Flyers get a late power play, and what happens? Kempe scores shorthanded from Lizotte and McDermott at 17:52. So their power play is a -1 and their shorthandedness is a -2. Shorthandedness works. Shorthanded opportunities, they were -2 because they allowed both power play goals. It's 4-0 after 1. It was so much fun that the LA announcers are like, hey, let's look at the highlights from the period. And there were a lot of highlights. They were excited. They have not had much reason to be excited this year. I get it. Second period, the Flyers would be very glad to be rid of California. There's no scoring in this period until Braun scores his first from Vorobiev at 14:59 to make it 4-1. It's not going to get interesting like the 2 games in Alberta did tonight. No. Third period, the Kings started the period on the power play, and Furk with a nice goal. Martin Furk, that's 3 goals for him now since the call-up. He's a pretty good player. He's a pretty good goal scorer. Maybe he'll finally realize that at the NHL level. Walker and Prohorkin with the assists at 131. The benefit for Ferk as well is LA doesn't have a lot of snipers, so if he can do this regularly, he's going to get his ice time, he's going to get his opportunities. So that made it 5-1. The Flyers get a power play. They scored on it. Giroux scored from Voracek and Konechny. It's 5-2. Late in the game, Lawton scores from Braun and Voracek at 17:08. So Voracek with a couple of assists. Braun gets a goal and an assist in this one. That makes it 5-3. That's as close as they're going to get. They try pulling the goalie, but as close as they're going to get. Elliott saved 11 out of 15 in the first. He comes out. Carter Hart goes in. Saves 13 out of 14. Jonathan Quick saves 32 out of 35. Your 3 stars, Kempe, Quick, and Clifford. Power plays, 1 for 3 for Philadelphia, 3 for 3 for the LA Kings. 3 for 3 for the Kings. Their power play sucks. Did Philly not know this? Anyways, shots are 15 apiece in the first, 10-9 in the second in favor of LA, 11-4 for Philadelphia in the third. Final shots 35-29 in favor of the Philadelphia Flyers. And there you go. The LA Kings beat up on Philadelphia. So the LA Kings with a pretty good home record. It continues, and for the Flyers, this California trip makes them look like they're going to back right out of the playoffs. Absolutely. My faith in Philadelphia has not just been shaken, it's been shattered with the last 3 games. Remember, the game against Anaheim, they weren't exactly, burning down the barn either to blast them. And that was after what happened with San Jose, which was just an absolute joke. So, what did this do to what did this do to the playoff picture, you might ask? Glad you asked. So now Philadelphia has fallen back down to the number 2 wild card. They would play Washington if the playoffs started today. The Islanders have reclaimed second spot with the win they had earlier. I reviewed the earlier games this afternoon. So it would be the Islanders at home against Pittsburgh if the playoffs started tomorrow. Boston would play Carolina. Carolina's back into that number 1 wild card spot. Toronto would be at home against Tampa. 4-game winning streak. Tampa's in the playoffs. This is what we've been waiting for, and it's here. The Tampa Bay Lightning are pretty good. They push Florida out of a playoff spot. And Columbus, as I said, they're 5 points behind Philadelphia. The Rangers, Montreal, and Buffalo. Buffalo is in trouble because now Tampa and Toronto are starting to play like they were supposed to. Buffalo's sitting outside of that. So they didn't just lose a game. They lost to a division rival they needed to beat so they could stay really close to a playoff spot. And they didn't get that done. In the West, the Oilers moved back into a playoff spot. They would play St. Louis if the playoffs started today. Calgary drops out. Colorado would still have home ice against Dallas, but Colorado started to kind of fall. Vegas would play Winnipeg. And Arizona, with the win they got tonight, they moved back to second in the division. They would have home ice against the Vancouver Canucks. And outside of the playoff picture, Calgary, Minnesota, Nashville, Chicago, who are letting people know they're still in this, LA, who passed Anaheim, and San Jose today. So there you go. You guys are all set for tomorrow then with the Winter Classic. I'll be doing the preview for that tonight. That won't take very long. It's going to be a really short video. So yeah, let me know your thoughts regarding tonight's games. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I guess no lead is safe again. Or we can just look at all the goals tonight and go, it's New Year's. Everybody was already drunk. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Happy New Year to everybody who's already in 2020. And for those of us who aren't there yet, Happy New Year to you as well. I'm excited for the year to come. Genuinely excited. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.